May I suggest something? A lot of times when you go in doctors' offices, especially women doctors, OB/GYN, there's an awful lot of literature in the office for contraception, advertising certain brands, Orthonovum, for instance. If you look more closely, they usually have a page or two that describes all the after effects of taking the pill, all the warnings, including death.
Yeah.
If you take that and you blow it up and print it out and have it handy in your box or file of resources, then when you have a problem, you can always retrieve it, make copies of it, and show it to them, or show it to a doctor even, when he may be recommending certain things. Are you telling me to take this pill when it has this, and this danger to me? You know, have the concrete facts available for all medications. You know, they give that to you when you go get a prescription at the drugstore. They give you a listing of all these things. So use those materials.
That's a good idea.
I was going to just say, the other big issue that is coming, it's looming, is that all of these artificial hormones, unlike the natural hormones, do not break down and cannot be filtered from the water supply.
That's right.
And so in the rivers, we're seeing transgendered fish.
Exactly.
And in humans, we are starting to see the rise of male infertility. And it's like, you can't just, you know, the old song, you can't tug on Superman's cape, you can't spit in the wind. We've spit into the wind with this. We really have. To have that many people taking that level of hormones, it's going to be flushed from your body into the water system. And we're all going to pay the price for that.
We already are.
We are. We are morally in the cultural decline, but it's about to come back physically.
Yeah, I don't have any facts, but I think that, you know, a lot of young people today who are getting married say, for the first 5 years, we don't want children, so we contracept, so we can get all these material things and go on vacations and everything. And then we'll have children. Then they find out they're sterile.
Yeah.
And then they go to the in vitro clinic to spend a lot of money to try to have a baby, and then freeze the rest of them, and God knows what happens to those embryos. It's a vicious circle.
It's a product.
Yeah.
That's the perfect segue for these two ladies here are from the Immaculate Conception Fidelity, and Dr. Sora, who is one of the pro-life doctors in our area, who doesn't prescribe birth control, and who has just come on this recently. She's a young doctor. She's she's excellent. She is going to be talking about her faith journey up at Immaculate Conception Parish Hall. So I'm going to leave this up in the front if anybody's interested. But I think we need personally to kind of seek out these doctors the Catholic doctors who are not participating in this type of, you know, bad medicine, really. That's what it is.
Okay, so, please.
I'm not making a connection with natural family planning is consistent with this teaching. And here's my thought process, and hopefully you could tell me where it's breaking down. A little while ago you mentioned, or the discussion came up, and this was in passing about the birth control pill, and there are some instances when it can be used for other purposes, therapeutic purposes, and not for birth control. And that in that case that would be okay because the intention matters. Well, with this teaching, the husband and wife give themselves totally to each other. But it seems to me that with natural family planning, the husband and wife have a clear intention that they don't want to have a child at that point. And I'm not making the jump between that, unless my assumption is wrong, and that thought process being consistent with this teaching. So could you tell me where I'm breaking down?
Excellent clarification. So first of all, you're right in this. You can sin by natural family using natural family planning. In other words, it says, for a grave reason. That's the teaching. In other words, you can, if your intention is, if you come to the altar with an intention against children, that's no marriage, that's an invalid marriage. So how about if you are now you're married, if you have a frivolous intention, you're like, well, I only have a Mercedes, a BMW, and I want to get a Ferrari, and so after that I'll start having children, and I'm going to use natural family planning because artificial contraception, I know is bad for your health and immoral and so forth. You would be quite right. You could, in other words, simply because it's natural family planning, it's more intelligent in terms of not taking heavy drugs, but that could be immoral. But because it doesn't change the action, it's simply intelligently arranging when you have the action, that it's fundamentally different from artificial contraception, and it's also natural, you could say, natural weight in favor of life, because abstinence can be, the woman is naturally most interested at the time when she's most fertile. Guess who put that there? God. So that, in other words, natural family planning is constantly, there's an availability, there's at least nature is speaking to them all the time. So, but the principle is exactly right, that first of all, you could have an immoral intention, an immoral action, even though you're using natural family planning, but you don't necessarily, whereas you always do for artificial contraception. But if you have a grave reason, which spacing the children out, that's reasonable. It's only intelligent, or that's reasonable. So 5 years seems like a long time for these. And the other thing is you don't need to turn to artificial contraception. But so that would be the distinction. It doesn't change the action, but it does. It's not magic. You're quite right. You could, if you have an intention without a grave reason, that would be imperfect. And yes, ma'am.
And also, I'm not so sure that taking the birth control pill as a help in any kind of a situation is good, and that lots of times there are other ways, diet, just natural ways that women can deal with these problems that doctors are prescribing birth control pills for, that it's not really, it just sets up a scenario that is not a healthy one, and that there are other ways that doctors just either aren't aware of or don't feel like, they're learning about, or a little bit harder to accomplish. But the pill is an easy way to stop some of these problems, but I don't really believe it's the best way.
There's a gentleman who handed out pamphlets exactly to that effect. And what's the clinic? There's the cardiac clinic that Dr. Bouchowski down in Fairfax. Oh, no, this is in Fairfax. I think there's another one.
Oh, well, there's a huge clinic down there
but pointed out that, right, the pill, so those who take this medical advice and use it to solve a health problem, there's no sin there. But you're quite right that doesn't mean that it's not bad for their health. It still is, and there can be much better solutions. And that the pill is easily and over-prescribed because it's just easy, and it's in the culture, and it seems to.
Father, there's also another alternative to IVF, and that's naprotechnology.
Oh, yeah,
and all they have to do is Google it, and you can find out all kinds of information about that. And again, I think your point that you made regarding natural means of solving problems in a world that stresses that today is a good way to go about these things. So
Excellent.
just throw that out to you for your information.
Okay.
Last thing.
Oh, last. Okay.
Last thing, I promise. This is like the third rail of parish life, and I would just like to thank you for being willing to preach on it, both for those of us who do it and could use the encouragement, and for those that just never heard it. Just thank you. Thank you.
Father, do you give parishes?